against you. If you refuse to leave, you will be arrested for unlawful assembly.
Now, since the summer of 2020, it's basically been a nonstop blur of violent crime committed by unrepentant thugs. From people who knock over convenience stores and department stores with brazen arrogance to beating defenseless women and seniors, and sometimes even in broad daylight. The perpetrators almost seem to act as if they're justified, don't they? After all, in our everyone's a victim culture, you can right past wrongs by chucking a full water bottle now at law enforcement. Because even if they're not obviously racist police officers, they're part of a racist organization. Now, that's the flavor of the post-Floyd propaganda that we've seen saturate social media and even at times make its way into school curricula. And even in the cities plagued by crime, liberal mayors are still unafraid to say it like it is.
Police is not going to be able to resolve these issues on our own. The great level of restraint we saw yesterday by the New York City Police Department, that could have turned really ugly. These are young people. We have to, be mindful of that as we bring back order.
Again, man, it doesn't matter who you are, what color you are. We have got to take the country back from this victim mentality mindset. We truly do. Man, when are we going to realize that? When are people actually going to stand up and realize that? Again, we have got to hold our young people, everyone, accountable for their actions. They have to be held to account for what they do. Again, your behaviors, whatever, you have to be held to your consequences of that behavior. Man, again, we have got to realize, number one, not only is it the right thing to do for our country, but it's the right thing to do for the people doing it. Because again, they're not going to change. They're not going to change for themselves until they realize what they're doing. And the only way they're going to realize what they're doing is to face the consequences of their behavior. That's it. That's all. That's the only way they're going to realize what they're doing. And they're going to realize what they're doing is wrong and hurtful to themselves and to other people. Is again, by understanding the consequences of the behavior. And again, man, we're doing our young people a service by telling them the truth, by being honest with them. And everyone, we're doing people a service by being honest with them. Not covering things up, not subsidizing their behavior, but actually letting them face the actual consequences of their actions fully. Because guess what? It's not going to happen again, or it's going to be rare. But again, man, it's never going to change. It's never going to get better unless they face the consequences of their behavior. And we have got to understand that. So again, it's a loving thing to do. It's the right thing to do, not only for our country, our towns, our cities, but for the people that are actually doing it. And we have got to understand that. And again, man, right now we have full equality under the law, and we've had full equality for many years. So again, we have got to understand things are equal. And there aren't oppressed people. There aren't oppressed people. The only people that are oppressed are the ones that believe they're oppressed. That's the only oppression we have. Is the ones that actually believe they're oppressed. And that right there is hell. It's a sickness. And again, it's something being passed on by their mothers, by the communities, by the people that are supposedly helping them.
Now, young people are angry because they're being taught that their anger is righteous, it's justified, and that oftentimes non-minorities just hate them. Remember this scene from a Florida school last fall where one student felt entitled to tackle a police officer who was working on school grounds? Or what happened earlier this year when a teacher had the nerve to take away a student's Nintendo Switch? But of course, celebrities and elites, they're usually unfazed by this behavior because it rarely affects them. So they're shocked when members of their beloved audience end up hurling objects at them while they're on stage. Now, these megastars, some of whom indulged Black Lives Matter and vilified police themselves, help create this madness. Ditto with left-wing politicians and woke corporate CEOs who were too busy virtue signaling on race to think about where all this is going to lead.
Ain't nothing you can do, man, until police come in.
To a world where criminals fear no consequences and where those who stand up to them are most likely to be prosecuted.
We don't have an oppressed generation. We don't have people that are oppressed. We have people that are entitled. We have an entitlement problem in this country. We have kids that believe they're oppressed. And because they're so oppressed, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. And it's not just the kids, man. Some of the adults, too. Again, we have people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and, whatever, acting this way. Again, we have an entitlement problem in this country. Man, people feel they can do whatever. And they are doing whatever. They are doing whatever they want to do. And again, that's what the issue is. Again, the only way, I keep harping on this, man, but the only way that we're going to change things is by having people held accountable. And again, man, I remember what Greg Gutfield or whatever the guy's name is on Fox, man. I think it was, a few days ago, he said, instead of putting bars on people's windows, because that's what Oakland is telling people to do, they're telling people to put bars on the windows, bars on the doors. And he said, here's an idea. Instead of putting bars on your windows and doors, why don't you put bars around the prisoners? Why don't you put bars around the people that are breaking the law, that are making you in the community less safe? How about that? How about doing that? And again, he's right. We have got to start realizing, man, there's no way out of this. No way out of this except to hold people accountable for what they do. And again, you're going to be held accountable because if you vote this left, way of voting, man, gotta feel sorry for everyone. We gotta give people lighter sentences and this kind of stuff. If you vote that way, you're gonna be held to account for your actions. You're gonna live in bad communities. Again, don't complain that when you live in California and Los Angeles, and again, there are homeless people laying around everywhere. There are people breaking into your house. There are people assaulting you. Somebody tried to rape your wife. Again, you have got to understand that you're being held to account for your actions.
If you're robbed or you're threatened, stand by placidly. Don't put up a fight, ever. After all, America has a lot to atone for. So just consider it payback. Joining us now is Xavier DeRousseau, ex-Black Lives Matter activist and PragerU personality. Xavier, this victimhood mentality that we're encouraging and nurturing, where does this all end up? And we're seeing some of it play out on our streets, but what else is coming?
Cities like New York City and Chicago have gone completely rogue because there's just such a lack of accountability. There are no consequences. And what we're seeing instead now is there's an entire generation of people who are so used to not being condemned for this bad behavior that they don't even know the skill set of taking accountability. What they learn instead from fraudulent organizations like Black Lives Matter is that you should shift the blame to irrelevant, outdated issues like systemic racism, rather looking yourself in the mirror and recognizing that you need to change. There's a reason that most of the people displaying these violent behaviors are not first-time offenders. If there was nothing to stop them from committing this crime in the first place, then what's going to stop them the 5th, 6th, and 7th time?
Well, I mean, when Mayor Adams says it could have gotten ugly, we were watching the video thinking, what are you talking about? And by the way, Xavier, Chicago, as we've mentioned, is experiencing these teen takeovers as well. And I mean, that's a nice way of putting it. But here's what Mayor Johnson had to say. Watch this.
Oh, you're not aware of some of these large gatherings?
You're talking about the mob actions?
No, that's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. I didn't say that. But we have to be very careful when we use language to describe certain behavior. I mean, to refer to children as like baby Al Capones is not appropriate.
Not appropriate, Xavier.
It's not appropriate. It's funny they say that this is getting ugly, but to me it looks hideous. In fact, it's honestly embarrassing for humanity to see where we've gone as a society. And what I need parents, especially when you see these young people being destructive, they need to realize it's not law enforcement's job to babysit their kids. But if they continue to just sit back and allow their kids and their community to be so destructive, then eventually the judicial system is going to jump in. And I don't want to hear anybody complaining that they're oppressed because they decided to become a convict at 18 years old.
You know, little Brandon Johnson, man, in Chicago, saying that we can't call kids mobs with kids. Man, that's inappropriate. No, it's not. Man, that's totally appropriate. That is what they are. That is what they're doing. They're mobs with kids. And he's like, well, they're not little Al Capones or whatever. No, they're not. They're not smart enough to be. They really, truly aren't. Again, they're just tearing stuff up, jumping on cars, looting. You know, it takes intelligence, it takes thought to run a crime family. It does. Man, to run some kind of a big organized crime. You know, but again, you know, if you jump on cars or whatever, man, again, looting, no. You're just tearing stuff up, man. You're acting at a very base level. Again, there's no intelligence involved with that kind of stuff at all. And, you know, I'm not saying the kids can't be intelligent. I'm not saying they aren't intelligent in ways. But again, they're not pushed in that direction. They're not shown that being intelligent and thinking about things is the right way, because if they actually thought about things, they would understand that they're the ones to blame for their own problems. Nobody else is. They're the ones to blame. But again, mom does not teach them that, and she's not. And again, daddy, I don't know where daddy is, but mom is definitely not teaching them that. She's teaching them that everyone else is to blame. Their problems belong to everyone else. And man, they have a right to be out there in the streets and looting and rioting and jumping on cars and whatever. Because again, everyone else is at fault for what they're doing. And it's not true. It's not true at all. And again, we have got to hold people accountable. And at that point, they will learn not to do things again. People will learn, hey, look, I can't do that because, you know, I spent, 2 years in jail for that. Or I spent 6 months in jail for that. I'm not going to do it again. But if they're let out the same day, again, or if the penalties are so light, yeah. Again, that's not going to stop. So I agree with this guy right here, and this former Black Lives Matter guy. I agree with them. Again, if they've already committed certain crimes 3, 4, and 5 times, what's going to stop them from doing it 6, 7, 8 times? Nothing. We truly got to understand that nothing except for the consequences. If they're going to have to face stiff penalties for things, then it will stop. It will stop. But we've got to stop giving people this victim mindset. We've got to stop making this in vogue. Because, man, all it's doing is ruining us and ruining our country, ruining our kids. But hey, guys, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks. You son of a.